Everyone, welcome to our Insecure Season 5, Episode 2 recap, review, chit chat. Welcome, welcome. All right, so hey. All right, we're just going to wait a few seconds. Samaria is going to join us. Hey, y'all, welcome, welcome. So while we wait for Samaria to join us, go ahead and put your favorite moment of episode 2 in the comments. Your favorite moment of episode 2.
Hey. Hey, Lakeisha.
Hey y'all. So yeah, while we wait for a few more people to join, just put your favorite moment of episode 2. I had so many moments, but we won't get into that just yet.
All right. I just typed it in if you want to pin it.
Yeah.
We try to keep these to like 30 minutes, so we'll be starting in a second.
Yeah.
All right. It's 8:01. You think we should go ahead and get started?
Yeah, just because I feel like we have a lot to talk about.
Well, I think the first time it didn't feel like there was a lot to talk about, but
hmm
I watched through, I had a whole lot. So it's 1 year later. How do you feel about that, by the way? Like they jumped a year, but like in the second episode?
Yeah. And thank you, Paul, for the hearts. Yeah, that was kind of interesting because they had never done that before. I feel like it's always been like current time or within a few weeks. So to jump a whole year, I actually had to rewatch that part to make sure I understood, like, okay, a whole year has passed.
I would prefer them doing that though than like the season finale. They give us whatever they give us, and then it's like, oh, 1 year later, and then we're having to see a storyline. Step
Oh,
12 said, like it.
oh, okay. So you didn't like them jumping a year. I'm assuming not the whole episode.
Right. But honestly, if they would have, they would have had to deal with like Molly and Issa being awkward, and that would have been too much. Like, I don't want all that.
But I will say though, I feel like it would have been nice to see the progression of, their friendship, how they got back to being good. Like, that could actually be useful for some people to kind of see that process. Like Tiffany said, like, not Tiffany, what's her name? Kelly said, just like be yourself, be natural, be supportive. So it could have been nice to see that, but either way, they chose to jump a year.
Yeah, I suppose. Okay, so I think the first person we should get into is Molly because I had a lot to say about her. What did you think about Molly this episode? And you guys can let us know in the comments too.
Yeah, so obviously her hair has changed
Yeah.
and she looks different. And what do they say? Like when a woman cuts her hair, you should expect, big changes or something's different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was pretty obvious, but I don't know, her energy seemed better. She seemed to be in a good place, more relaxed, not as like uptight in different areas of her life. Um, yeah, so I'd say she seemed to be in a better place, more positive. What about you?
Okay, so this is just bothering me because it happened so fast. I agree with you. She's in a positive place. And I really like that people at work were laughing at her jokes. But did you guys catch Torian still being shady to her? Like,
Yeah.
everybody's laughing at. He said Molly needs to give choir boy a shot. He's a deacon, not a choir boy, first of all.
He just seems like he's going to be that low key hater forever. Like he's never seen it for her and he just never
Or
will.
exactly. Like everybody's laughing at her jokes, and here he goes with his fake laugh. And then when she volunteered, he's like, okay, fine. So yeah, so that was the first thing. But since it's coming up in the comments, how do you feel about her mom trying to hook her up with Herbert?
Yeah, first of all, it was hilarious. One, because it's so relatable. Like, I think if you're still single at a certain age, like your parents and friends, people will start to try and play matchmaker because they think it must be something maybe that you're doing wrong
Mm-hmm.
or something's going on. So yeah, I'd say it was funny, relatable, and for me, like I can't say that my mom has like played matchmaker from like the romantic standpoint, but she's definitely played like the friend matchmaker, like, oh, so and so from the church would love to be your friend or hang out with you, and you're just like, thanks, but I don't need help making friends.
Your mom has done that to me, so I can only imagine how she's done that to you. But I thought it was funny when her mom said, "Oh, Herbert plays the organ and you listen to music." Like, really? You finding every reason to hook me up with this man?
What
That
did she say? He plays music and you listen to music.
yes, that's what she said. He plays the organ and you listen to music. It's really like, if you really think I'm out here that desperate that anybody would like get a pass. But yeah,
Mm,
so I thought Herbert's part was really funny. And I also thought it was interesting, like seeing her becoming her parents' parent,
mm,
like the one who's like, you guys need to get this going. I thought that was really relatable because so if their 10-year anniversary, or like graduation, whatever, reunion was
mm.
this year, that would have been around the same time we are. So I think people around our age are starting to see like, man, our parents need help out here. Like they're becoming kids. So I like that they shared that like relatable moment in this.
Yeah. And I will say too, because later on in the episode, Molly did apologize to her mom for being so uptight about it. But I think definitely for us, as we see our parents, the baby boomers, get older, it stresses us out, thinking about the future and, if something, you don't want to think that something's going to happen, but she's thinking about, okay, if the worst happens, like there has to be a plan in place. And it's not surprising because she's a lawyer for her day job. So, you know, she's an asset to to her family in that way. And she's just not taking like a backseat approach and like, well, you just do whatever you want, knowing that if something happens, everyone probably will be looking at her.
Like you mean prepare your parents. Yeah, that's true. I felt like Molly was okay. I could not help but think of season four Molly a lot of times in this episode, just the way she approached things.
Hmm.
And the reason why I thought about season four Molly was because I felt like she was doing the opposite of what season four Molly was doing.
Mm.
So, for example, when Issa walks in and she's on the phone with Nathan and she's like, "Oh, y'all are really friends? I can't be friends with anybody who I've slept with or whatever." I'm like, season four Molly would have been so shady with that. And like, you love mess. You so messy, Issa. So I am proud of like her growth in that moment, not coming for her and just being able to mention it. And then Issa gave her response and it was cool. It's like, okay, girl, you do you. I feel like she needed more of that last season, but she's
Yeah. It seems that it's also from a genuine place because that was one thing I was wondering. Like they're showing them in a more positive light, which
mm,
we in terms of their friendship, and we haven't seen that on the show in a while. And so them skipping ahead, I kind of was like, is this genuine or is Molly just putting on? Like obviously she's been going to her therapist, something is clicking. Um, but I was wondering like, is it genuine? But moments like that make me feel like, oh no, like she really has grown a lot.
yeah. If that were your friend, how would you feel about them like talking to an ex? I feel like we see it backfire a little bit later in the episode, but
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point she knows Issa. Issa seems to be the circle back type of person where like when something's like done, she doesn't see an issue with kind of bringing it back up or going back around. So I think if I have a friend and I notice that about them, and
mm-hmm.
Issa, it may not just even be her love life, it can be other areas of her life, then you just kind of accept them for who they are unless it just really, really bothers you. Um, for me, as long as it's not like super drama filled, I'll just take a sideline approach and be like, okay, girl, I guess you're doing this again.
And I thought it was funny how Molly was like, "Oh, well, just go behind this man's back to his boss,
Girl.
ask him." Because I'm like, wait, didn't you just get on her for doing the same thing with Nathan and Andrew, and now you're suggesting it? So I don't know if they did that on purpose, but I feel like they were really trying to undo a lot of what she's done in the past. It's like you didn't want her doing that, but you're okay with her doing it with this man.
Well, maybe that's the show's way of kind of showing the growth and progression without actually having to like take us through the entire process. They're just showing us in these different instances, like, oh, she has grown. She is a changed person. So we don't necessarily need to see all the nitty gritty of
Mhm.
what happened over the last year.
Yeah. So before we switch characters, just the last thing on Molly. Um,
Hmm.
how do you feel about her whole dating situation? So they did the flashbacks and and then she went on a date at the end. How did you feel about that whole thing?
Yeah, that dating app reflection type of moment was kind of hard to watch. Mainly because I guess in the moment, like the previous seasons, as I was watching it, it just kind of felt like, well, she's just a young woman trying to navigate dating and womanhood, and she
Mhm.
doesn't have answers. But kind of, but watching them take those nuggets of her in not so great moments, it was like, oh yeah, girl, you really were tripping. Like it's a lot. So yeah, that was kind of hard to watch, but once again, the episode was titled Growth, and so I think they're kind of showing her being able to reflect back and be accountable for herself, which is
Yeah.
a good thing before she even decides that she wants to start actively dating again. What
Mhm. No, I agree. That dating profile was intense, honey. Like, can you imagine reading that about a person? Like, I would walk the other way, if I were anybody on a dating app and I saw that level of detail. Like,
about?
the tone of it was not very approachable. So, I mean, I'm glad that she's trying to learn from that. I also liked at the end, even though I don't know if we'll see this character again, but the guy who she went on a date with, like when
Hmm.
he waved all excited, he didn't think anything of it. He waved right back. um,
Hmm.
so I did appreciate that. Like he seemed genuinely interested in coming to meet her. So whether it pops off with him or not, I'm glad that that exchange happened.
One thing though, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but her dating profile, like
Mm.
some of the things that she was like, well, I don't want this and I don't want that, or I'm looking for this, and this. The people that she's aligned herself with either didn't have those qualifications or I don't know, like it seemed like she had like high standards on paper, but in practice, she seemed to be much more open. So obviously Dre being married, like
Dro.
or Dro, whatever his name was. He was married and that whole situation. Andrew, obviously he wasn't black, so she must have been at some point open to interracial dating. So I don't know, just the people that she's linked up with. Um, what was the guy's name who ended up being bisexual? He was like early.
Bisexual. He had an encounter.
Oh,
Jerry.
I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just, and I understand like no one's perfect, but for her to have a laundry list.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the reality of like being older and dating is like even though you have these things that you want, you're taught to be so flexible. Like, oh, you have to be open. You don't want to close off everybody or anybody. So I think like we're seeing what's realistic with people who are dating maybe in their 30s or whatever. Like, you have your standards, but you have to be flexible.
Yeah, especially
All right.
when a mom or parent who will make comments like, "Oh, your dad is gonna have to wheel you," or like he's gonna have to be wheeled down the aisle. What did you think of that?
I thought that was so insensitive. Like, obviously, she knows that her daughter just went through some type of a breakup because she was just talking about this guy at Thanksgiving and now they're not together. So I thought it was really insensitive. And I think it is the reality. Like, I've seen mothers talk to their daughters like that. But
Mm.
it's like, take it easy. Like, you can make a suggestion. You don't have to hammer it in like that, like, Just say, hey, I want you to find somebody who makes you happy. Not, oh yeah, girl, because we old. So he gonna have to roll you down and 2 years of dating, if that. And all, that was just, it was extra, but
And
it is what
given her parents passed, like, come on now. Y'all.
why pressing up on me when you and daddy had your situation going on.
Right.
You're right. Okay, so I wanted to talk about Issa and Crenshaw. So
His
I
name.
I wanted to know like who you thought was wrong in that whole instance, and why. I'm gonna type it out so people can respond.
So who was wrong between Crenshaw and Issa? Or
Yeah.
Anthony? All three parties?
Wait, who was the third one?
The company who she was trying to appease. But I guess if we're just talking about just them two, I'd say Crenshaw.
Mm.
I don't know that he was wrong, but I think sometimes when people get involved in these types of partnerships, they don't really maybe fully understand what it means to kind of like give a little, take a little. And Issa was in an interesting position where she didn't really work for this company. Oh, hey, Dallas girl. I hope you're caught up on the episode. So she was in an interesting position because she didn't work for the company. So it was just a weird situation. And then she was like playing liaison,
Yeah.
not like a manager. So it's an odd position to be in because she really just wants both parties happy. So to sum it up, I think Crenshaw was wrong
Okay.
because even if he didn't want to go by the notes that she had, then
He was so excited. He was like, "Oh, I'm about to smash this." Like, okay, sir, calm down.
yeah, like if he didn't want to go by the notes that she had bought back from the company, then he should have said right then, hey, then this is just isn't going to work. That whole like, oh, I'm going to change it 5 minutes before the show, and he said, oh, I'm doing this because I knew you'd have a problem with it. Yeah, you're wrong for that. You didn't have to agree to it, but you should have told her either right then, the day before, not force her hand per se. That makes, well, I think it worked out, but it could have made everyone look really bad. So
Yeah. I agree. I do see Crenshaw's point though, and this got me trying to play devil's advocate. I really just am trying to understand where he's coming from. Like he's worked so hard, and he feels like he has this vision.
mhm.
When you have like a vision, you don't want anybody else to water down. And so you feel like, oh, I might not get this opportunity again. I need to, and it's my name out there. First of all, like, like he has Crenshaw, like that's his name. So I understand that he felt like I am not trying to water this down. I want it to be authentically me because it's my name out there and it's my work out there. So I need to do my best. But I was really, of course, on Issa's side and proud of her because they tried to remove him. Like he didn't know all the work that she did to get to that point. And I was really proud of her, one, for standing up to them at the meeting and saying, like, okay, those people aren't from the community. So, she stood up for what she believed in and her vision. So I was proud of that. And then she went and set up the whole, like, was it a steak breakfast or whatever? Um,
Yeah, that was very awkward. So I guess the lady was the boss.
yeah.
And I can't even imagine kind of going behind the person that I've been working with, their back, but I can understand it only because I've seen where, say, certain decisions are being made and
Mm-hmm.
you're clashing maybe with the person who you're working with, and you may need to involve other people in the organization to say, hey, this is what I think it should be. So if there's still pushback, then at least you've done your part by making sure everyone at all levels kind of understands what the situation is. And then it's up to them and how they want to handle it.
Yeah, and I think we gotta be careful about this whole like, oh, you're not on my side just because you didn't do everything exactly the way I wanted you to. Because he really felt some type of way. He called her a sellout, and I'm like, come on, like that's reserved for some other behavior that was not that. Like she made sure you have this opportunity, you know?
Yeah, and I was thinking about with him, you know, the whole part, promoters and artists, creative artist element. In these cities, they're only, obviously this is fictional, but there's only, um, it's not a lot of people involved. You start to see a lot of the same people. And so the way he just kind of went rogue like that, it seemed like it worked out in this moment, but if it didn't, once other people hear like, oh, this guy does whatever he wants to do, he can't be controlled, you got to do what you wanted to do, but then you can't be surprised if in the future people are cautious of working with you because they don't know what you're going to get up there and say and do.
Yes, like he was giving Kanye vibes, but he wasn't Kanye. And so it's like you're still up and coming. You have to be very careful. And I
Mm,
feel like was trying to be that balance for him. Do you
yeah.
think be some type of romantic thing with her and Crenshaw?
Girl, that would be interesting, and I hope not.
Yeah. I, it was just a look at the end, and I was like, the
They,
first time I saw it, it wasn't a big deal. But the second time, I'm like, I don't know,
mm,
it was like two looks, you know? Like,
yeah, it would remind me of when she was messing with was it security guard, police?
but that guy,
Yeah,
PSA bang
the TSA guy. It would be giving me that, like, girl, this isn't it.
at all. No,
Mm-mm-mm.
but I mean, he did stand his ground, so shout out to him. And I'm so glad it worked out. What do all my invisible what was the thing that he was yelling? It was,
I know.
but yeah, he did the most, but it also brought the show alive. Like if those people would have just been walking back and forth, that wouldn't have been a lit show at
Mm-mm.
all. So all right. So we do have to talk about this moment. Um
Yeah.
Issa and Nathan in this episode, they had a couple moments together. So let's just address them in this episode as a whole. What were your thoughts?
Okay. I knew Nathan would pop back up. I'm glad to see that they're working together.
Mm-hmm.
I think Nathan is one of those guys where he's in this place of, well, I'm dating.
Yeah.
I still care about Issa, so he's like waiting in the background for any moment
Okay.
that becomes open. So if she's like, "Hey, I want to be friends," he's like, "Cool." If
Hmm.
he wants more, he's like, "Bet." Like he's just waiting and lurking. Um, yeah, and so yeah, I am glad to see that they are working together. He seems to be in a good place,
Hmm.
but he's definitely one of those ones you got to be careful with because any moment he's just there.
That's true. I think this episode, I said this last week, I'm gonna say it again, but them being friends is just what needs to be. To spend in the night. But yeah, he needs to be her friend and she just needs to be his friend. So that's why I enjoyed like the beginning parts of the episode. Um, even when he was she invited him over for a drink, but to her house. That was one thing. I was like, all these spots open and you invited him to the house. Like, dang, Issa. But yeah, I enjoy them as friends and I wish they would have stayed that way.
But why? I need to understand why do you want Nathan to only be in the friend zone?
I just think he gives off friend vibes. Like you need somebody in your corner to hype you up and be like, yeah, go through with this project. You need somebody who you're like comfortable talking to. And every man who you interact with does not need to be a romantic interest, you know?
But they obviously have chemistry.
I mean, do they? She was so quick to leave him for Lawrence, like drop him and go to Lawrence.
Yeah, but is that a fair comparison? Someone that you've been in a relationship with for 5 years and it's finally at a place where like things are on the up and up. I don't even think that's a fair comparison. I
Oh,
think they seem to have enough chemistry to where she's inviting him back to her house for a drink.
Because she's lonely, Miosha. It's been a year since Lawrence left. She's been working on getting the block hot, and he's just available. So that's why, like, when you say they have chemistry, sure they do, but he doesn't seem like he was her first choice or anything. Like, it's been a year, they're not together yet. She's just on this friend vibe. How much is she feeling him if he's been available for a whole year? She's been available for a whole year and nothing has happened. She was trying to save money. Drinks are expensive out there.
True.
But
I guess I
how
don't
much?
know. You seem to be more open to when Daniel was like a romantic interest versus Nathan. And I guess I don't understand it. I never will. Maybe because I'm also partial to Nathan. He has this whole like Houston Southern vibe. I don't know. Maybe I'm partial.
Nathan is a vibe.
Yeah, he's a whole vibe.
I see him as Issa's friend. I don't think she has it for him like that. I think he really helped her come out of this shell when she was getting over Lawrence and when she was like in transition, like I don't really want to be here doing this job anymore. I think he was a huge like he had a huge impact on her at that time.
Mhm.
But for a romantic partner, I just do not see it.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna work long term. It's just I don't think like out of all the guys she's messed with, like I don't have very many red flags with him. Even when he did ghost her, he had a reason.
Yeah,
You know, we'll just kind of table the Nathan Issa romantic interest there, and we'll see what happens.
I guess. Her crying in his mouth. I was like, oh my God, why?
Ugly cry too.
What an awkward situation. Like, and then her saying, oh, I'm not ready yet. Like, okay, so that's definitely, it's like Q and Lawrence. And I think next week's episode is about him.
Mm,
I think Nathan was just available and she felt like she needed something after being in that stressful situation. Molly, who's been her stand-in date, them like sleeping, in the same room
mm,
and dating each other, which by the way, I think is such an underrated experience. Like
mm.
when your friend are single at the same time and you guys kind of like date each other. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that's such a great thing to show on this type of a platform because it's
Mhm.
through those times. But anyway,
It it's very relatable too.
yeah,
Like real life, people do that.
exactly. Um, but yeah, she was just lonely and needed Nathan, and so I don't see. But I do want Nathan to get like I wish him well. I want him to get somebody who is all about him. I just don't think. I think she liked him initially, but I just don't think that spark is there like it used to be. So that's my thought, Issa and Nathan.
He gonna be waiting in the background, just thinking.
I hope not. I hope he's not waiting in the background for her because she's not ready. Her heart is still with Lawrence, unfortunately. So
Unfortunately, yeah. Um, so since we're kind of getting close on time, let's go over your favorite or most funny moment of the show.
it had to be the interview lady coming back. I am so glad they brought her back. Where, like, first of all, she came and interrupted them talking and then had the nerve to be like, to Molly, like, girl, you came in on our conversation. And then when she was like, oh, yeah, this is actually something that's impacting the community.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I see you've been taking my notes. And he was like, no, girl, you didn't even have a YouTube channel up. Like, what you mean I've been taking your notes? So she was one of my favorites. And then the guy who just came out of jail was like, I ain't no snitch. But Tyreek over there eating snacks on the job. So yeah, those are my two.
So my first was, I guess it was like very early on in the episode when I guess she's doing like a book event and
Oh.
she died and the girl's like, "You changed my life," and he's just
Yeah.
like it definitely gave me awkward black girl vibes.
Yes.
Definitely something Issa Rae would say or do. Yeah, so I really like that. And then I guess another one of my favorite moments would be the whole trap gospel music, the whole scene where he's like, "Oh, I can show you some of the music I've been working on," and the mom's like,
Yes, I went to a church that used to do that, and I had flashbacks. I also like the one where they were sitting down at the table and they were like trying to have a little powwow, the people from the company, and she was trying to listen in, but didn't say anything. I was like, okay.
"Oh man." Well, thank you guys so much. Let's see, did anybody put?
I was reading them as they came up, or at least as I saw them.
Well, all right. Thank you guys.
Yeah, we have so if you haven't checked out our last episode that dropped on Friday, the podcast episode, it is up on our YouTube channel, which by the way, please guys go subscribe to our YouTube channel. The link is in our bio, and listen to last week's episode, and we'll probably talk about it on our stories Wednesday, probably Thursday. And yeah, stay tuned for a new episode on Friday. We'll see you guys next Monday to
Yep.
go episode 3.
All right. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.